Hi, everyone. Welcome to Waste 360's Nothing Wasted podcast. On every episode, we invite the most interesting people in waste, recycling, and organics to sit down with us and chat candidly about their thoughts, their work, this unique industry, and so much more. So thanks for listening and enjoy this episode. One of the best things about this podcast is learning about the latest technologies and innovation in our industry. And that's why we're delighted to introduce Juno, a breakthrough waste recovery technology that's proven to recover up to 90%, yes, 90% of materials it processes, diverting them from landfills and incinerators. And these materials, things like paper fiber, plastics, and metals, are then circulated back into the economy for reuse as raw materials. So talk about a circular solution. If you would like to learn more, visit gpjuno.com. That's gpjuno.com. Hi, everyone. This is Liz Bothwell from Waste 360 with Ryan Begin, CEO of Divert. Hi, Ryan. Welcome, and thanks for being on the show today.
Hi, appreciate the opportunity.
So I'd love to hear more about your journey and how you became CEO of Divert.
Yeah, wow. So probably goes back to my, undergraduate coming out, knowing that I definitely wanted to be within renewable energy, had, a path in solar car, which was really exciting, sort of, a small Maine town growing up, and then being exposed to things like, building a solar car from the ground up and having that experience to move into and experience a new industry was exciting. Graduated, went into Proton Energy Systems, which is a distributed hydrogen business. The whole premise in 2000, if you kind of go back, 22 years, was the hydrogen economy, was sort of this new foray, an awakening of renewable energy. It was a really exciting time. The business had just gone IPO. I was employee 26, had a really, some really incredible experiences building products from the ground up, international exposure. And, from that point, going into a master's degree in Raytheon, really trying to round out my experiences, seeing the better side of entrepreneurship at Proton and the incredible amount of work that was being done, but realizing that also needed to have the rigor behind engineering. At Raytheon, I was there for a number of years and met some folks that were doing a business school MBA at Babson, and came across this concept of food waste. It never really thought about it before. The concept that grocery stores were throwing wasted food away was sort of never occurred to me that would happen. And now looking at the statistics, $40,000 per month per store of food going to waste is just incredible. We started the concept of kind of building on my experience at Proton. What do you do with food waste? And we had this distributed network idea, taking wasted food using anaerobic digestion, which was, fairly novel, and I would say still novel, but the idea of doing that on a small scale behind the grocery store, just really unique. And we had some incredible customers early on where, we were able to build our first system, have a ton of great experiences. From that point, realizing the scale of that business, an early capital raise, and how do you take a business and scale it, build it into something that actually is sustainable in and of itself? And that led us into our first project with Kroger.
Amazing. And I was going to ask about that. You've been at it for quite some time. And can you share any of the stories that you have from your clients? I know, like you said, you have consumer brands like Kroger, and I know I've read Target and CVS. I'd love to hear how you actually partnered with them and then some of the success behind that.
So I would say we've been on a journey with our customers. So in 2010, and as you know, Waste 360 has been in the industry for a long time, and maybe has witnessed some of the evolution that has happened. It used to be zero waste. Zero waste was everything. And we had retail partners that were coming to us and saying, we need to get all of our food waste, which we refer to now as wasted food. We need to get our food waste out of landfills, and we need to do that very, at scale for our grocery stores. And it was sort of early days in 2010 to do that. And there's been a journey, I would say across the board, industry wide, and maybe the larger conversation around wasted food as well, is we need to be more responsible. We need to value food differently. If you look at food going to waste, you look at legislation and regulations coming out, 20% of all wasted food in California needs to be reduced. Like, that's a really novel concept, that we're going to reduce wasted food, not just divert it. So that's been a really interesting journey. We use data, we use our analytics platform, we use our knowledge in the retail space to help achieve some of those goals. And I think we've done an incredible job with that.
That's great. And you mentioned the data. Are you using that for anything else to help you scale?
So when we look at the idea of wasted food coming out of retail, the compactor in the back of that grocery store probably gets pulled once per week if they're not really doing a good job recycling their food waste. One of the other streams that retailers generate a massive amount of is cardboard. And if you look in a compactor, you look at those streams, cardboard and food waste make up about 90% by weight of what leaves a grocery store. So we built an IoT tracking platform, and by doing things like tracking cardboard bales coming out of grocery stores, tracking the bins of wasted food that we process and manage, we've integrated in our data platform the ability to pull in all of the waste invoices and all of the weight tickets on that compactor pickup, so we can really understand what's happening. And going even further to understand where is food that's donated and how do we drive food to donation. And we've had some really impactful benefits in driving diversion, driving food donation, which really reduces what we're processing, which we're very happy about. And then even going further and reducing what is wasted entirely by that grocery store.
That's great that you're able to do that. And then is donation part of this, Ryan? I'm sorry, I cut you off.
No, donation is part of everything that we do. It is, when we look at the food supply chain, the beginning of that process, starting on a farm and working its way through production, transportation, all of the logistics, going into distribution, back to the retailer. And if you look at the value of food through that entire supply chain, it really starts to peak within retail and then within the consumer. So if we can keep food within that channel, I think we've done our job in achieving what we've set out to do as a business. But we're also able to reduce waste, reduce carbon intensity, reduce food production upstream. And, there's just a very large impact when we approach it in that way. So food donation is really keeping food in that channel. The next, I would even say Feeding America has come out and said, as we've partnered with them on things, we don't want retailers sending us food that they can sell. That's not sustainable. That's not a sustainable donation platform. So we're really trying to find that balance, a healthy food donation program, a healthy retail operation, and then what can't go out those channels, we will recycle for our customers.
Fabulous. That's great. It truly is circular.
Absolutely.
And then Ryan, you just got a nice influx of private equity support. Can you talk about the significance of that?
Yeah, if you look at the trajectory of the business, so we founded the business in 2007. We spent 15 years really refining the business model. So when we started, I would say that the macro trends have only strengthened. I think the awareness of wasted food has grown. Some of these things are nonlinear, and as we've built our solutions and we've learned about wasted food, we've learned about retail distribution networks, we've learned about where wasted food comes from and more of the why behind these things, building that business model to a point where we were ready to take on that capital. And I do think sometimes it happens within entrepreneurship where businesses pull capital in too early. You hit the launch button and you don't have a refined business model. And so when you take that much capital on, you really have to execute quickly and at scale. So having the right business model in place, before we brought that capital on, incredibly important to us, really true to ourselves and our mantra within the business. Um, and it's been impactful. I think we've scaled faster. We've moved into new markets. It's really doing a lot of the things that we already do in some really critically important markets. It's growing our technology team. It's growing our executive leadership, making investments on the plant side, additional innovations, things we've been thinking about for years. We're really pushing the development and execution of those things now.
Oh, that's great. And I'm sure you plan for much more now, huh?
We are. I think that because of our success and what we're doing, and the folks that we're doing it with, I think are really exciting. We have never lost a customer in 15 years. We value those relationships. We really approach the solution mindset rather than customer service. It's really, are we solving our customer's problem? I think we're starting to get recognized for that now within the industry. Our customers are asking us to go faster. And then, that begets more capital. I think when you see that type of commercial success, others do look to put capital to work in that type of successful platform.
Absolutely. And I know it takes a lot of moving people and pieces. So I know we have some entrepreneurs who listen. What are some of the challenges you've had in scaling over the years?
Wow. Challenges in scaling. I would say there are definitely inflection points. And if I were to kind of look at it from a revenue perspective, that first million in revenue, very difficult to achieve. And you start to learn more about yourself. I think you learn more about your industry, the business model, the solutions you're providing. And now you're kind of growing that team. You're going from, a handful of individuals within the business. Communication is very fluid, very easy. And then you go to the next inflection point of, 10 million, and everything sort of breaks. Your accounting system breaks, your customer service breaks, things that were working and you could communicate very easily. It's harder to do. And you really have to think about the concept of scaling the team and then enabling the scaling of the business at that point. And for us, now we're well beyond that point. We are 250 plus employees, growing every single day. Communication processes become incredibly important for us to operate as a business. The way decisions are made, it has to be distributed. You have to have trust. And the way to achieve that is to have a very clear vision within the business. Where are we going? Why? And if folks on the team understand the why, they can make better, more informed decisions. I'd say layered into that is our hiring process. We really look to diversity within the business, diversity of background, diversity of experiences, diversity of mindset. How do we solve problems? There are some things that the idea of everybody being executionally oriented is important. Aligned with mission is very important. And the way to do that, to sort of push that communication, is a strategic plan. And when you see it work, it's a really exciting thing to be a part of.
Oh, I bet. What was I know you talked about sort of inflection points. What were some of your most critical hires?
I think the first vice president that we hired. So we're a couple entrepreneurs, we're part of everything that we do, every decision, every facet. So you bring in a vice president and you're saying, I'm going to carve off this very big piece of the business and you're going to take this and we're going to trust that you're going to make the right decisions for the business. And, sometimes those decisions aren't the way that you might make them. I think it's trusting in that process and the individual to see through that. So our VP of engineering and operations, circa 2013 was a very big hire for us. But when you see that hire come in and you see how you can sort of unlock value within the business, because now you can go work on something else. Somebody has taken the reins on a portion of the business, and it really enables you to take a step back, think strategically, where else should we be pushing, provide additional customer support. And it really was sort of that eye-opening moment, to realize this, when finding the right individual, that balance at the VP level, that they have vision, but they can also execute. And it's that balance at that VP level, hard to find, but really important.
Oh, that is. You're so right. Seeing the big picture and being able to strategize, but also focus on the details. It's huge.
Very hard to do, hard to bring people into, an existing organization. I think we've done very well at that process. We use a project-based interview process. And it's really about, we just hired an amazing chief technology officer. And, everybody goes through the same interview process. It may be more extensive, but the mechanics of it are the same for everybody within the organization.
Well, that's great too. And then along the way, you figure out cultural fit too, which is great.
Yeah, and I think our culture is made up of all of the folks on our team, and I think our culture becomes more multifaceted. I think different individuals on the team have different perceptions or maybe reasons for being passionate about wasted food and protecting the value of food. So it really adds to the story, it adds to the culture, as we grow and diversify.
Absolutely. Well, that's great to hear. And then I was looking at some of your facilities, Ryan, and it looks like, you were brilliant in location, right? You do it near Kroger's and your other customers, which is brilliant on many levels, to be that close to them. Is that your strategy going forward, or are you expanding beyond that?
When we think about moving into a market, so we just opened up operations outside of Chicago, outside of Atlanta. We look at, where are our customers located? Where are people located? Where is food waste, presently going to landfill? Where can we be impactful? One of the things that's evolved, early days, 2010, 2012, when we were developing and had built the project with Kroger, and then into 2015, 16 with Ahold Delhaize, we did not have the balance sheet to build a, $20-30 million facility. Fortunately, we do have that ability now. We are building multiple facilities across the country at that scale or larger. And what we're able to do is, rather than locate specifically at the customer distribution center, really offer that same incredible value to our customers in solving their problem, but do it in a centralized way where we can service multiple distribution centers. And that may be multiple distribution centers for the same customer. So we look at a regional basis, and then solving that problem within the market.
Oh, great. And you've really expanded technology over the years as well. And you mentioned some AI and IoT solutions. Is there anything else that's helping you really keep the supply chain going for you guys?
I think the idea, there's a concept of there is data that is missing within solving the wasted food crisis. And for us, that really gets into the nuance of, why is food wasted? Certainly, nobody has ill intentions. They're taking good food and throwing it away. It may be that they don't have the logistics channels. It may be that they're not properly trained. It may be that cold supply chains are breaking down without awareness. And so when we look at what's happening and our ability to be at the end of that food supply chain at a very large scale, we see what is getting wasted. And then the opportunity to look at those supply chains with our customers. So we partner up, and we've deployed and instrumentated cold supply chains to understand what is happening with food. And it's not just the temperature, it's the movement, it's the time, it's the disruptions, it's the human behavior within those supply chains that really affect what's happening. And so you may have food that is grown, and we are, grow an avocado, move it from California all the way across the country. You're refrigerating it, you're carrying it, and then, really at the end of the process, if somebody's mishandling that food, you're destroying the value at the very end of that process. And so I think it's the understanding of when is this happening, why is it happening. AI, we think, is an important part of that. There's a visual component there within food that I think is missing, and we're working to fill that gap. Layering into that our ability to leverage our IoT tracking platform to understand where is this food coming from. It allows us to go deeper into the why, more specific to the why. So it's really bringing all of those technologies together in a way that allow us to paint a more real-time informational picture on why food is getting wasted, and then use those tools to provide real-time corrective actions, prevent that from happening.
Now, are your customers or prospective customers, are you finding more interest since awareness has risen about wasted food? And I think the pandemic all made us way more aware of that in sort of the general public. So are you getting more interest in the work you're doing and from them and wanting to do more, and or new customers trying to get in?
We are. I think we have also grown as a business. I think we've become hyper focused on certain areas. We spent a lot of time understanding what is happening. And so we're really bringing that knowledge back to the conversation with our customers, and it's resonating. They understand that we are taking a different approach. Technology-enabled infrastructure for us is, how do we responsibly deploy these very large solutions, but align our interests with our customers? And so we really provide a platform. And so when we provide that platform, it's not about just recycling food waste, circa 2010. This is us really pushing ourselves with all of the knowledge that we've gathered over the years to build those solutions. And now with, capital at our backs, proven success, we're able to go faster, harder. And I think that's really exciting for our customers. They're looking for help. They're looking for the right businesses who understand, the eccentricities and the complexities of retail, because it is a very tough business. And, I think our empathy for the customer resonates with all of these solutions behind it.
Absolutely. And I always joke being in this industry because it's not always the easiest thing to explain. How do you, at say a dinner party or to your family, explain what you do?
Oh my gosh, wow. Well, I think that's actually becoming easier. I think awareness of wasted food. You have incredible organizations like Refed that have spent years talking about this, explaining the issue, trying to bring awareness. You have, the Ad Council. You have Super Bowl commercials. And all of these things are causing people to take a little bit more time to say, well, wait a second. Well, what am I wasting? And so when you explain to somebody, I'm in the wasted food industry, they say, wow, that's incredible. I didn't know that was an industry. And then you go deeper and you explain, well, 30 to 40% of what goes to landfills is food waste. It's probably one of the most easy to recycle products with the right infrastructure. And we're not really doing it. And when you start to kind of unravel and continue to pull on that thread, it really resonates with people. They really understand what you're trying to accomplish, and they get excited.
Yeah, I think so too. And even just raising awareness among family and friends to think about things twice, and they get excited to say, hey, I didn't buy this, or I took care of this in my fridge or freezer. It's kind of nice to inspire others.
I think they're interesting story. My mom, and she knows I've been working at this for 15 years. And just recently she read an article where, I was quoted about the bruised apple that everybody passes over at the grocery store. And that's how we are all participating in creating wasted food with retail. There's a blemish on an apple, we pass over the apple. And she said, wow, I was just at the grocery store and there was an apple that, that I wasn't going to buy, but I realized I could just cut it off and I was going to be eating it immediately. So I bought that apple. So, I do think that these are the things that we are going to have to think about more and make more conscious decisions as a consumer to drive wasted food to zero.
Absolutely. I'm with you. And people aren't aware of it. They just want the shiny apple. And it's funny you say that. We did sustainability talks at Waste Expo, and we were doing smoothies, and they were self-powered smoothies, right? You would get on, you would charge your phone, and you would blend the smoothie. It was super fun and cool. But we worked with the convention center to actually use ugly produce instead of wasting it, because people aren't going to, like you said, go for the bruised apple. So the fact that we were able to create, and when I say the best smoothie I've ever had, it was delicious, and it was all from ugly produce that would have otherwise been wasted. So it was nice.
It's exciting. I think when people experience that process and they say, well, maybe I can freeze my bananas because they're over-ripened, or maybe I can just cut the bruise off and put it into the freezer. I'll use that later in a smoothie. There is an impact. It's going to be something that we build methodically, that awareness, that action, but it is happening, and I think it's an exciting time.
It really is. And I love your story and the patience that you've had over the years. And I feel like now you're really part of the momentum moving forward. But you have been patient. Do you have any advice for people, whether it's this industry or any other, in how to really start a business and stay with it if you have purpose in mind and do it well like you have?
I would say that passion trumps everything. And if you're passionate about a problem and you're solving it and you're approaching it for all the right reasons, there's sort of nothing better to do with your time, in my opinion. So if you approach it from that perspective, and you're very, I would say we are brutally honest with ourselves. If we're approaching a problem in the wrong way, or our interests are misaligned, from customers or others, or really from just, I would say, basic truth, like reducing wasted food is far more important than creating renewable energy from food. The ROI on that is the better solution, to reduce it from the source. So I think when you take that type of brutal honesty layered in with passion, I think you're bound to be successful. And then as you find other folks that are working to solve those problems, and you're aligned with them, and you're both pushing to solve those problems, I think one of the most beautiful things within the business is you never have to question the intentions of other folks on our team, because nobody is acting in self-interest. It's everybody is working as hard as they can to solve this problem, and we're all working on the same problem. And you see opportunities, and you see things unlock within the business. So from like an entrepreneurial perspective, it really is, it's a pretty basic function. I think patience is a good word. I think it's waiting and being honest with yourself to find the right model. I think not getting caught in the hype. XYZ company raises $400 million in your space. We did have those moments, and we were like, oh my gosh, we're going to get crushed. We just kept our head down. We kind of ignored the noise, and we kept working on our problem. And sometimes it does take 15 years.
Well, congratulations. It's great to see where you are now. So tell me, what else are you paying attention to in the world of wasted food and recycling?
I think the most interesting things are happening, these crossroads within regulations, voluntary markets, consumer awareness, retailers. I think because we were honest with ourselves on the right way to approach this problem, there's a lot of development and movement in the space, from retail technology to other folks building recycling solutions. And I think participating in that and sort of watching and learning from other folks is really exciting, as well. How are other folks thinking about this problem? Are there opportunities for us to innovate as a business? And really that push, I think that competitive nature across the business, regardless of who solves this, and at what scale, we all win when this problem gets solved. So I think that's what we're looking at as a business, staying humble, but really continuing to drive and just enjoying the experience of the awareness within the industry.
That's fabulous. Good. And then is there anything policy-wise you're watching right now?
Well, we have the IRA that was just passed. I think we're all still working to digest what does that mean within the biogas space. I think that provides some catalyst. This will be sort of our second experience with the ITC, the investment tax credit. So 2010, 2000, through 2015, the ITC was available for biogas projects. It is back through the IRA. I think that's really exciting. We have HB 1799 that passed in Washington State. SB 1383 has gone into effect, and I think the push by regulators in California on that it's interesting to see how municipalities, customers, consumers are adopting behavioral changes within that market. And outside of that, we really do see the voluntary push to the ESG mandates that businesses have being aligned with regulations, and maybe even in most cases outpacing regulations. But we're trying to take what are the best of breeds of regulations that we're seeing, layer that into ITC, and how do we scale the business as fast as we can by checking all of these very diverse boxes within our mandate.
Good. Well, you definitely have enough to keep you busy, Ryan, for sure. So what's next for you and Divert now that with the PE backing and all of your lofty goals?
So right now we are continuing to expand across the country, and I think when we look at the population centers where our customers operate, establishing operations, giving our customers the opportunity to partner with us in markets that have largely gone without, any food waste solutions, specifically depackaging solutions in multiple markets. So we are pushing aggressively on that. Meanwhile, keeping in mind the ITC. And I think the opportunity now to put capital to work is probably better than ever within the wasted food space. And so we're working pretty hard and pretty diligently on that. And luckily, we have an incredible team in place. We continue to expand and build on that team to accomplish those objectives.
That's great. And then is there anything else you want to share before I let you go?
Something else that we are excited about when we talk about the awareness, the White House Conference on Hunger, Nutrition, and Health happening tomorrow is, I think, again, awareness happening across the country, driving food donation. These are things we've been thinking about for years, and for it to get that level of exposure and support at the White House, I think is just a testament to where things are heading in the industry, in the country. And, we're just really excited.
Oh, that's great. Okay, we'll continue to watch that as well. Well, thank you, Ryan. It's been so great talking with you, and I loved hearing your story, and you're an inspiration for everyone.
I appreciate that. Look forward to seeing you at Waste Expo.